It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and the strength of which his body is capable. This quote by Socrates rang true to me at a young age because I needed it. I was about 130 pounds, frail as could be, and my mind was no different. Not only did I suffer from social anxiety where my face would get red and I would be sweating profusely and stuttering like never before, but I carried myself with no dignity and no respect. It was sad, but I knew enough to know that life cannot carry on this way. A change was needed, and that change was... Growing up, there was one thing that I wanted more than anything else, and that was bigger wrists. And I would go on my phone, Google searching, and going across all these forums saying, how do I grow my wrists? And everything pointed me back to the simple statement of, if you grow your whole body, then your wrists will grow too. But I lacked the confidence to go to my meathead area, the local Gold's Gym, so I found myself in my basement, following along with these Mike Chang six-pack shortcut workouts. And while most of my childhood leading up to this moment involved me on the Xbox, poning noobs and COD, I was now getting humbled by the weights. But I loved it. Wherein before, I was getting a false sense of confidence after dropping nukes on lobby after lobby. There was something about physical exercise that felt real. Real pain and consequences that wasn't matched after shooting enemies dead online, and a real reward and celebration with every strength and physique gain that I got that Call of Duty just couldn't compare to. And that is what we call newbie gains. I was walking around my high school halls, standing tall with my shoulders back and my chin up. My posture was indicative of my changing mindset, because every month that I was taking these photos, I was seeing and feeling noticeable changes. But there's always a strange slope that affects young listeners that start off small and scrawny. They start packing on consistent muscle, and then fuel their ego with the mindset of, if I can transform my body like this, then what can't I do? And I was no different. While I was always a goofy kid deep down, which you can probably tell by some of the photos I had been taking, my ego does play a massive part of my fitness journey. And taking creatine certainly didn't help. Making the decision to turn my natty card in with my first purchase of creatine came with effects that I could never have expected. First, I began blowing up with bloat. At school, I earned the infamous nickname of Meatball, and it was applicable. My face was swelling up, it got all red, and I had a double chin for the first time in my life. I was gaining weight, I was getting strength, I was getting muscle, everything was going well, until I started sweating profusely during my classes.
Ew.
Eventually, the truth caught up to me, that it was time to cut. But just as I started my first cut, I did unfortunately bruise my sternum on a dumb T-bar row. This injury, which was sadly the first of many, was torturous. I mean, riding on the gains train at an ever-increasing speed, only to have to stop to replace a wheel or something, was awful. So, since I wasn't really able to hit chest and didn't want unequal proportions, I made up for it in the diet department. And so my thought process was, if I bulked so efficiently and effectively by eating everything, then I can cut by eating nothing. I ate no fats, just about no carbs, as much protein as I could while keeping the calories low. I ultimately felt way more fatigued than I ever should have, and my libido left for a pack of cigarettes and never came back. Luckily, I didn't have to endure those conditions for very long because, after only a few months, I lost the weight that I was happy with and prepared for yet another wintertime bulk. And, to my shock, the transition from cut to bulk was pure awesomeness. I would be gaining what seemed like pure muscle, and no fat for days and weeks on end. Now, about 2 years in, I found what would be considered to be product market fit, where I was getting the traction that I initially hoped for, so now it came time to simply scale. And scale I did. As you can see, I eventually found a net positive in doing these cyclical bulks and cuts where every time I would bulk, I would be getting more muscle faster while keeping more fat off my body. And then every time I would cut, I would lose the fat quicker and I would keep more muscle each time. I highly recommend those that are interested in starting their first bulk and cut to get a very solid understanding of 3 basic metrics. Number 1, your maintenance. This is how much food you can eat in your daily life without gaining or losing any weight. This is your starting point for everything else. Number 2 is your caloric surplus. If you know how much food you can comfortably eat without fluctuations in your weight, then you can begin gaining a little more weight. My bulks just simply included throwing in a bowl of fruit and yogurt cereal in at night, but I did actually weigh out every single meal. And then number 3 is the caloric deficit, which involves simply cutting out the bowl of cereal and introducing cardio. In my opinion, Bulking and cutting and gaining or losing weight can all be simplified to simply that. And as long as you're combining both the scale, the objective measurement, and the mirror, the subjective measurement, then you can't go wrong. So over time, my goals began to transition a bit. It began to evolve beyond simply getting as strong as I can or getting the biggest number on the scale for my weight. And I wanted more functional fitness. I wanted to get more flexible, do more calisthenics, do more flips. As you can see in these clips, I began branching out from simply going to the gym, working out, hitting new PRs, coming home, slamming the meals, and calling it a day. So now, 8.5 years into physical fitness and working out regularly, there's one change I would have made. I wish I did this back on day one. Can you guess what this change is? Let me know in the comments below. Is it a diet? No. It is